25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Why do they put M&M's in trail mix, Robin?
Oh, because it makes it sweet. I love that.
But it's like the odd thing. It's like the IQ test, which doesn't belong, right?
Oh,
like
okay.
Everything else is healthy. Raisins and nuts, right?
Yeah.
Sesame seeds,
right,
whatever they're in there, right?
Right.
And then M&M's.
Well, because everybody craves chocolate. Most everybody. I do. I can speak
So
for
it's
myself.
healthy, sort of. It's sort of healthy. So it's about the taste, in other words, right?
Yes.
Do you know, I haven't always liked olives, but I love olives now. I can remember I used to play guitar in lounges when I was a younger guy, and I would be standing on the stage playing, and I'd be watching people eating olives like they were candy, and I'd be thinking, what am I missing? How is it possible that they love these things so much, and I can't stand them? Now I love them.
Yeah, aren't they great?
Isn't it funny how taste changes?
Yes.
If you're looking at the podcast right now, you see the cover of a book called Elements of Taste, Understanding What We Like and Why. I think in 15 years of doing this show, we've never talked about this subject before. So thank you to our guest for bringing something to the show we've never had before. Benjamin Errett is an editor of the arts pages for the National Post. He's a humorist. You probably figured that out. And he dips his French fries in mayonnaise.
That's cool.
You know, I'm a mayonnaise lover, but I have not done this. I think I might try this. Good morning, Benjamin. Thank you for being on the air with us and for waiting. You waited a long time to be on with us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Where are you right now?
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Did you know you have to walk like 10 miles to burn off 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise?
I did know that, or I knew vaguely. We use kilometers up here, so it's different.
So this is an interesting. Now, is this a scientific study, or is this kind of just some essays that you wrote to kind of study it from a non-scientific vantage point?
It's sort of a bit of everything. It relies actually on some psychology research about how we look at all the genres of entertainment that there are out there, how we look at everything from, bluegrass music to horror movies to sitcoms.
Right.
And how we can sort of make sense of all of the sort of culture that's out there.
All right, so I was talking before we went on the air about olives. I think I started liking olives because of the what do they call it? The not the showboat, the bandwagon effect. I saw everybody else on the bandwagon. I didn't want to be left out. And then I actually started liking them. Is that the same thing for the thing? You mentioned Cabbage Patch dolls and Beanie Babies and things like that. Is that what it is? We as humans just want to be part of the crowd?
There's definitely part of that. I sort of ascribe that to sweet taste, so that gets you your sort of culturally sweet things like your Beanie Babies and your Cabbage Patch Kids and even like the Dutch tulip bubble of the 1600s. These kind of things where suddenly everyone wants this thing that's pretty and, it's pretty, it's cute, but it doesn't explain why it suddenly becomes this absolute phenomenon.
So we agree that ketchup is probably one of the best condiments that was ever invented.
Yes.
And you ask the amazing question, is there a ketchup of music? And I thought, yes, there is. It's strings. I think like
I could see it.
Like violins and cellos, they add strings to pop music, to rap music. They add them to everything. So it's like ketchup.
It's like the universal condiment of sound.
Right. I like that. This is a funny observation on your part. When did you? What's the story behind the idea? Was there a story? Were you sitting with your girlfriend or something at a restaurant?
I was so I had all these, I was editing these arts pages and entertainment stuff, so I was basically looking at all of the culture, all the movies that are coming out, what TV do we write about, what music do we review, and it became increasingly clear that there's just so much of everything, that we sort of need a new way to even go out there and figure out what we're going to like. So that sort of led me to these elements of taste, which is that you can basically put all of these, every song, every movie, every TV show into one of these 5 categories of sweet, salty, sour, bitter, or umami. And when you do that, it's very similar to ordering at a restaurant, as you say. You can sort of figure out what you're in the mood for and what's going to satisfy that.
So do we, by understanding why we like what we like, do we give advertisers, I guess, tools to try to persuade us to like whatever it is they're selling?
Well, I think we're very susceptible if we don't go into the sort of out into the world with some idea of what we'd like to get. You think of how you go on Amazon and you have, if you like this, you might like that. Or when you open up Netflix, you'll see, they'll give you a whole bunch of suggestions. They're offering you things right off the bat. But if you know what you want, you can go into the search bar and actually find what you want, as opposed to just being, eating whatever you're served.
And it seems that different cultures embrace different things. I mean, about 4 years ago, there was this trend where all the African American males were walking around. They had these big pacifiers in their mouth.
Oh, what?
Didn't you notice that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really prevalent here at the mall. Some had like those big candy diamonds on and everything, the candies.
Benjamin, have you seen this?
I have seen that. I think that there's a note of sweetness there because it's a pacifier, like it hits that. But I think also it just goes to show that there's no one taste anymore. You can't say, "Oh, it's good taste" or "that's bad taste," or that this is what everyone's doing now. Like there are so many subcultures and trends that might appeal just to certain kinds of people that you really have to go back to think about what you're going to like. This is not something that I'm going to start doing tomorrow. It's something that appeals to certain people in certain ways.
Do you come to any conclusions?
Well, basically, I come back to that idea of cultural ketchup, that there are some things that blend all of those 5 flavors. The reason that we all love ketchup is that it has a bit of sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami all in one. Like every squirt of ketchup has those 5 basic flavors. So I think there are some things that are, when you look at them, that's super popular across generations and across demographics. Something like the Star Wars movies, for instance, they hit all of those notes. And then I think each of us has a palate that, we're going to like certain flavors more than others. So as you said, you didn't like olives when you were younger, so
right.
Maybe you didn't have that salty part of your palate, and then it's sort of, you developed it a bit more, and then you could do the same thing culturally, where there might be like, I don't know, say film noir that you didn't like when you were younger, and then you saw 1 or 2 good movies, and then suddenly realize this is a genre you really love.
Oh, so we have the ultimate in junk food, and forgive me for using the word junk food when I'm about to tell you about Disney World. But Disney World is, in a way, kind of like the sweetest thing you can do, and you have to. This is just my opinion now. I know some people like to go there all the time, but you have to do it kind of in moderation. Yeah, and you have a part of the book that is called Cleansing the Palate. So how do I cleanse? I'm going to Disney at the end of the year, okay? Mm-hmm. And I got a pass for 4 parks. I think I'm going to be like overloaded. It's kind of like diving into a swimming pool of M&Ms. How do I cleanse my palate after that?
Yeah, I mean, Disney has thought of this because obviously they're a billion-dollar corporation. They know you can't go all sweet all the time. So you got your sour with your sort of roller coasters and the thrill rides that they offer. And there's some of that stuff in Epcot when you get a little more bitter, a little more interesting. Like what are the actual ideas at play there? But yeah, I think going to Disney every day is like drinking Coke for breakfast every day. It's some people might do it. Some people might, have diabetic complications later in life too. There's only so much that you can handle.
Timing is everything. I know when the movie Dirty Harry came out, starring Clint Eastwood, he went on to make like 5 or 6 more Dirty Harry movies. But then there was a news article that said that Frank Sinatra was considered for the role, and then Frank Sinatra got hurt, so they put Clint Eastwood in the role. Do you think the Dirty Harry franchise would have taken off if Frank Sinatra was in that lead role instead of Clint Eastwood?
That's a good what if. I think it's a very salty franchise. That's what I would say. Like the flavor of that is it's dark, it's gritty, and it sort of spoke to a time in I guess the 70s when that was sort of what audiences were really responding to. Sinatra, and he had that aspect, but that was more of his like Vegas lounge singer. He was also like your mom's favorite singer. Like he had that sort of communal sweet side to him. So I think it could have been a really I don't know. I have no idea how that would have worked out.
Do you know, I'm picturing you when you were a kid in class, and you would like turn things around just to make them funny, or make your friends think, or maybe kind of get under your teacher's nerves. How did that evolve into the writer that you are today? First of all, I guess, am I right about that? Was that you? And how did that parlay itself into becoming a writer?
That's a good question, and thank you. I think that is pretty much dead on. I think I'm always trying to just sort of look at things from a different perspective, and with elements of taste, what I'm looking at there is like, how do you figure things out? Like, I had all these genres, I had these movies pitched to me by publicists and all this sort of thing, and like, this isn't actually helpful. It doesn't help me decide what I want to go see on Friday night, or what music I want to listen to at the gym, or put on for a dinner party. Like, these are things where we need a new angle at this to get doing some sense of it, and now more than ever. So, yeah, I guess what I'm trying to do is always bring new ways to think about things, and in this case, with this book, I'm trying to help people think about things that they already love, so they can find more things they love.
And sometimes when something becomes successful, other companies come in and acquire that type of personality or franchise and claim it as their own, like ABBA. I mean, they were entertainers. I think they were from Sweden, but now when the country announces their products and everything, they say that ABBA is the highest grossing product for their area.
Yeah, I think, you get a band like ABBA, they hit a certain note of mostly sweetness and a little bit of, sort of into the disco a bit, which qualifies a bit salty, but it hits a note really, really well. So when you think about a food that just hits that taste, like the top-selling candy bar, that it's hitting that sweet note in just the perfect way. So I think that's where, it's going to just resonate with an audience because it's exactly what they're craving.
Do you remember that movie we saw, was it earlier this year? The guy whose children died in the fire, and what was that movie?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember the name of that movie.
Somewhere in Massachusetts. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
Anyway, it was so horribly sad, but it was such a well-done movie. And so after it was all done, we came back on, after we saw the movie, we were on the air the next morning, and we're talking about this movie. Now, everybody's raving about this movie.
Can't remember.
And it's hard to say...
Manchester by the Sea, was it?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. And it was hard for us to say, okay, I wish I didn't see it. Even though I have to admit it was very, very good. I felt sad. I don't like going to the movies feeling sad. I want to go to a restaurant. I like the fact that you're comparing culture to food, because it's easy to see the comparison. But you know what I mean?
You think of a movie like... Absolutely, and I think a movie like that is really, really bitter. And bitterness is an acquired taste. No kids don't like coffee, and those super hoppy IPA beers are challenging to drink. But ultimately, they're really popular, and people gravitate towards them. They feel good about seeing them because there's so much depth there, and there's so much to explore. So I think that's why if you're going to reach for something bitter or something sweet when you just want to relax and have a good time, you're going to go with something sweet. But in the end, like with this movie like that, you're going to be happy that you did sit down to enjoy it.
And then you think about the movie Jaws. I mean, you didn't really see the shark to the end, and everything leading up to it kept the viewer on the edge of their seat.
Yeah, so that's your thriller, your sour, when you eat a sour candy or some of the stuff that is, it really wakes you up and gives you a jolt. So, that's sort of you go from the sweet, where you're just sort of, calm and very communal and Disney style, and then you go into something a little more thrilling, where it suddenly wakes you up. That's where the sour flavor comes in.
Do you think you may have hit on the reason why we celebrate artists, and that would be recording artists or painters or even poets, anybody who's a creative person? Do you think you've hit on the very reason why we celebrate people who rub us in an irritating way at first? You know what I mean? When any of the time the young people have some new music, all the older people go, "Oh my gosh, it's horrible!"
Most older people,
and then give it a few years, and everybody's saying, "Oh, I love this,"
Yeah, it goes back to the salty olives, right? You've got this thing which it's just not your palate at first, and then you're exposed to it, and you sort of begin to see why it makes that part of your tongue or that part of your brain happy, why it works so well.
How did you choose the shapes that you have in your book to use as the key to describe different things?
Well, so I found some research that basically lumped all of these genres into their categories were communal, thrilling, dark, aesthetic, and cerebral. So that was sort of the research that was already out there, and I found that fascinating. And so then I was like, okay, so if you can put all of taste into 5 categories, and it basically works, and you can slot any movie, any book, any song into those categories, what's another way to think about taste that has 5 categories? And that sort of led me to the sweet, sour, salty, bitter, umami. And I thought, this is crazy, I don't know if this is going to work. But then the more I looked at it, the more I thought about how that works and how, we might call a person sweet or say someone's, really bitter about something or they're getting salty. These connections actually make sense to us intuitively, and I think they actually make sense in the elements of taste.
I think you're really onto something here. Okay, I have a story to tell you. I was at a college years and years and years ago, and there was a hypnotist putting on a hypnosis demonstration. And it wasn't just for entertainment purposes. It was supposed to be to teach us something. Anyway, he had 12 people on the stage that we presume are volunteers. Maybe I had something pulled over me. I don't know. I think it was legit. Anyway, he had each of them doing kind of crazy things, like acting like a duck or a drill sergeant or crazy stuff like that. And before they went back to their seats, he told them all that whatever he tells the 12th person, they're also going to be affected by. And then he brought them all out of their whatever you call the thing on hypnosis. They went back to their seats. Now, the 12th person was a lady. And he said to her, now you're going to sit at this piano, and you're going to be the world's greatest piano players, and you have your fans out there. They're going to love your music. So she sits down at the piano, and she's just hammering away at it, the most atrocious playing. I mean, just hitting keys like there was like no rhyme or reason to anything. The whole audience, of course, looked at it as funny. Mm-hmm. And of course horribly dissonant, but the 11 people who went back to their seats, they stood up and applauded like, oh my God, that was the greatest thing I ever heard. So it's amazing how we can actually taste things in using your words based on what we believe they will be.
Yeah, I think perception is a huge part of it, and I mean, you think about the way. If you're primed to see a funny movie, if you walk into a movie that everyone is saying is going to be hilarious, and there's people in the theater laughing, you're probably going to laugh. Alternately, if you walk into a movie that everyone's saying is amazing, and that might just be like, well, it wasn't that good. The best way to go see a movie, I guess, what our film critics would always do is, you go in cold. You know nothing about the movie. Let the filmmaker tell the story. Don't walk in with your own sort of perception about, I hear this is going to be, I should be on the edge of my seat, and I'm not. This movie's a failure. But yeah, we sort of have these perceptions of what we're going to like, and it can cloud, sometimes it has less to do with the actual, the actual sound coming out of that piano, and more to do with what you think it is.
Isn't that something? I give you 2 examples of something that's similar. If you have ever gone camping and you had a can of beefaroni, or Chef Boyardee ravioli, that was what it was. Chef Boyardee ravioli. It's pretty good. By the way, beefaroni tastes the exact same as the ravioli.
Yes.
They taste the same. Do you know what I'm talking about, by the way? That's Chef Boyardee stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do, sure.
So it's delicious. You go camping, you open this up, you put it on the fire, it's delicious. So Robin and I went to this town not too far from here, and they had a buffet, and I said, hey, let's go get lunch over at that buffet. And they had ravioli. And I took some. I said, oh, ravioli, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
And it was Chef Boyardee. And all of a sudden I said, oh my gosh, I can't believe there's... And we were like, well, wait a minute. I like this when we're camping. How come I don't like it here?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing as going to see a movie, for example, that you feel like, okay, I'm in a theater. This isn't so good, but you could see the same movie on your TV at home, and it's pretty good because you didn't invest anything in it, I guess.
Oh, yeah, it's all about context. I mean, when I'm camping, that first cup of coffee in the morning, when you just get out of the tent and make your coffee, it's the best tasting coffee in the world. Like, you can't match that when you have a roof over your head.
That's true. That is really true. Yes. Although I did have a cup of coffee at a campfire one time that was horrible.
Yeah, if there's grounds in the bottom, I'm not saying it.
That's funny stuff.
That's not always the
Well, then you have the different generations. I know when my children, were young, and I would take them to movies because they were, into these movies and everything like that. You, as the loving parent, have to enjoy the movie. You have to see everything through their eyes, as opposed to the parent that goes in there and tries to see it through their own eyes. It's just not going to work.
It's just the same way if you sat down. I have young kids, so I often end up eating the rest of their dinners, and it's not what I would choose to have. Macaroni and cheese and meatballs for dinner every night. But they don't want what I want to eat. So you just realize how that palate is developing, and certain flavors are just going to be, are going to make them happy, and that are just not going to quite do it for me.
The book is called Elements of Taste, Understanding What We Like and Why. Benjamin Errett is the author, and you've also written The Elements of Wit. I was looking at your the collection of books you've written on Amazon. There was part of the book where you would talk about how Donna Summers, one of her assistants, was mistaken for a prostitute. I have a prostitute story to tell you. I was working the night shift, and the people I worked with said, "Does anybody feel like going out and get donuts?" I said, "Yeah, I'll love it, because I love getting out of the job." Okay, so I would drive at night to Dunkin' Donuts, and I would pass this corner, and almost every single time, these girls would come up to my window asking me if I wanted something, and I would say, "No, I'm going to go get donuts. Thank you very much." Well, one night they asked me to go, and this was like every night. Okay. Well, one night they asked me at work, "Can you go get the donuts?" I said, "Oh my gosh, I can't right now. I got so much to do." So they sent one of the ladies, right? And when she came back, I said to her, "Did the prostitutes bother you?" And she said, "What prostitutes?" I said, "How could you miss them? They come to the car." And then I realized, oh, wait a minute. They wouldn't go to her, would they? They wouldn't be walking up to the door.
Yeah.
So now this was probably I was in my 30s, okay? Well, now you're talking to a 62-year-old man. When I drive down that way now, those same girls are there. Nobody comes to my car anymore. So even they have taste.
Exactly.
I don't know if I should offer you condolences or what the
Your writing and your observations are deeper than surface. You're actually getting into the psychology of life, and when you hear all those horror stories about one gender abusing the other, and it goes both ways, I think people would benefit from reading your book and actually having a one-on-one conversation with you. You seem to really get into the head of everyone with this writing. It's not just surface. You're a very, very deep person, even though it's very entertaining.
Well, thanks very much. One thing I'd say is that, if holiday season's coming up, you're trying to figure out someone's taste. What do you buy for them? That I hope my book can give you a clue on other people's taste, and then if you buy the book and you can't figure out, what to get your dad, you can just give him the book.
Exactly.
I have a copy.
This is perfect.
All right, call me if you want the copy that was sent to me. Benjamin Errett is the author. Benjamin, do you have a website of your own?
I do. It's benjaminerrett.com, but you can just find me on Amazon. The book's up there and ready to go.
Do you do stand-up?
I do not.
You'd be very good at it with your observations.
I think it's observational. Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah. Benjamin, thank you for being on the show with us today. I'm going to go get some mayonnaise for my French fries.
Yeah, I'm going to try it too.
Do it. You won't look back.
Thank you, Benjamin. All right, we are up against. We'll be right back.
Get it for less at the DIY Home Center outlet. Get top quality real wood cabinets the same or less than the big box stores are selling the cheap stuff. And that's not all. Drywall screws big box stores are $6.47 a pound. At DIY, only $4.99. Plus, DIY has the largest selection of mobile home parts and accessories anywhere. From carpet to doors, get the DIY supplies you need for less. The DIY Home Center outlet. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
Hi, I'm Seth with AA Lock, Dock, and Security. Have you ever thought about the locks or security on your house or business? Have you ever wondered why the keys to your new car cost so much? Well, at AA Lock, Dock, and Security, we can help with securing your valuables. We can even replace those expensive transponder keys. We can give you the knowledge that no one else will. Call AA Lock, Dock, and Security at 867